Hey everybody, it's the Professor, and once again, it's the one and only Blue Pill Professor, coming at you from the internet and talking to you about the things we really care about, namely, the nature of women, and what we are all going to do about it now that we have awoken from our long slumber.
Been dazed and confused for so long, it's not true. Wanted a woman, never bargained for you. Lots of people talking, few of them know. Soul of a woman was created below.
And this week on the question of whether a woman's soul was really created below, we turn to the modern headlines and look no further than a recent post by the blogger Rollo Tomassi in therationalmale.com, who writes about female solipsism. And he gives our favorite female as Exhibit A. Hillary Clinton, in a speech not that long ago, said the following: "Women have always been the primary victims of war. Women lose their husbands, their fathers, their sons in combat. Women often have to flee from their only homes they have ever known. Women are often the refugees from conflicts, and sometimes, more frequently in today's warfare, victims. Women are left with the responsibility alone of raising the children." Now, the first time I heard that, and really every time I hear that, I am left breathless with the arrogance. This statement infuriated me. Women are the primary victims of war. And why are they the primary victims, you ask? Why, because their husbands are brutalized, gutted, killed, shot, bayoneted, burned, and because their husbands and sons are brutally killed, women are therefore the primary victims of war. I just really am trying to understand, ladies, but I can't. I think it's outrageous. I think it's ridiculous. I think it shows that a woman's soul was created below, not just because one politician said that, but because women listen to that and they say, "Oh yeah, that's right." And almost all of them do that. We say AWOLT. All women are like that. Well, Rollo Tomassi attempts to explain this, and he writes in his column, "From a solipsistically obvious female perspective, what Hillary is expounding here is entirely true." And this, of course, explains why women almost to a woman agree with her statement. From a perspective that prioritizes feminine hypergamy above all else, these three sentences make perfect pragmatic sense. The idea that men losing their wives in warfare would make them victims at all, much less the primary victims, is not even an afterthought. All that matters is the long-term security and continued provisioning of women and their sexual imperative. And folks, I think Rollo was right. He explains further, "At no other time in history have women become more accustomed to perceived entitlements of personal security, ubiquitous social control, and relative assurances of optimizing their hypergamy. At no other time have women's sexual strategies been of such primary importance to society. However, this narcissism is the result of an acculturation and learned social priorities that predispose women to expectations that border on arrogance." In other words, Rollo agrees with me. Over recent generations, that narcissism has become learned and fostered in women to the point that narcissism is openly embraced as a feminine strength. Women believe it's their due after a long suffrage. And all that, folks, is what happens when you release the female soul and give her full freedom to do whatever she damn well wants, to destroy whatever man she chooses, to break up her marriage on a whim because she's bored. I hate to tell you guys, ultimately, relationships are about power, and women have it. You cannot call a bunch of big, strong men to show up at your door, beat the hell out of your wife, and take her away in chains. But she can. And so I offer up the evidence that is all around us, that a woman's soul was indeed created below. This week, we're going to continue the book Married Man's Sex Life Primer, and we're going to finish it. As we recall, last week we left off with 49%, and we will then start with the chapter on sexual judo. In the chapter on sexual judo, Ethel Kay takes us through a couple of concepts that are necessary. Namely, that your wife is a sexual being. The bottom line is that women want to have sex just like men, and your wife wants to have sex. She just may not want to have sex with you. And many, many divorced men find out, much to their chagrin, that that sweet, innocent woman who wouldn't fuck them is suddenly a sexual tiger with her new fuck buddy. Your wife is from a long line of sluts, and don't forget it. You see, what happens in marriage is that women are allowed to develop and refine their bitch shields. Ethel Kay, of course, nerfs it and calls it protection shields, but we know what they are. The old, "I have a boyfriend, I need to go." These are the bitch shields that women put up during a pickup. And in a marriage, if a woman is allowed to extend her bitch shields, they become immensely powerful. It becomes, I have a headache, or I don't feel very well, or we need to put the kids to bed, or she may get up and take a shower, or work on her face or hair until all hours of the night, just to avoid being in the same room alone with you. You guys know what I'm talking about, and I'm sure you recognize it. But Athel K points out that when you pressure a woman to have sex, this is when her bitch shields are raised. So the technique is to slip behind her defenses without raising her bitch shields. Thus the term sexual judo. You use her strength against her and stop fighting her strength. Athel K then moves into the concept that a woman's orgasm is not your responsibility. And I love the comment. If you are having orgasms during sex and your wife is not, it's not that you're bad at sex, it's that she's bad at sex. And he introduces several softening techniques, and they're not softening in the way we would think to be advantageous. They're softening men up to take their women like a caveman. He starts by advising men that her orgasm is not your responsibility, and furthermore, you should therefore allow her to not orgasm some of the time. In other words, try a little pump and dump with your darling bride every now and then. And he continues this line with a great metaphor that what a lot of us have been doing is playing Pussy Hero 4.0. But what we need to do, many of us, is to grab our women, throw them down, and have our way with them quickly and hard. That is what they really want. That's what Chad Thundercock does. That's what the Uber Alpha does. And you find when you do that, that your woman is actually more likely to orgasm than when you played hours of Pussy Hero down there. So lose control, take her like a caveman, make some noise when you have an orgasm, throw her around, manhandle her, and understand that girls like bad boys because bad boys let them be bad too. And if you want your wife to open up, some of the time you just need to let her be bad. With respect to most sexual related questions, the answer is really the same. If you want to get her to dress up, then you need to take the lead and dress up. You may need to take her shopping. If you want her to wear lingerie, then you need to take the lead and dress sexy and get her some lingerie. Now this is hotly disputed in the manosphere actually as bad advice, but this is what Ethel K writes. If you want her to use a sex toy, wait for it, then buy her a sex toy. Better yet, buy yourself a sex toy and use it with her. Then he talks about porn, which isn't very interesting. Basically, use it in moderation and you're fine. In chapter 14, what she means when she says, I'm bored. I'm bored is not as bad as the I love you, but I'm not in love with you speech. And it can be resolved fairly easily. According to Ethel K, when a woman says I'm bored, it means I'm not getting my submissive itch scratched. I'm just sitting around waiting for you to make something happen so I can respond sexually to you. Don't let it happen, because if you're boring, she's whoring. Be unpredictable with sex. As I say, throw her around. Come at her in different positions. Pull out and come on her back. And try a rough sex experiment. I love how he puts it. Take her down and take her to Pound Town. And he has a section on breaking down a sexually frigid wife, which is somewhat helpful. It is basically based on psychological principles of reinforcement and starting small. So if you want her to give you a deep throat blowjob, don't start with that. Start with licking the tip, for example, and work your way up slowly and inexorably without scaring away the little kitty. Chapter 15, he brings in the concept of ovulation game, or as Rollo Tomassi puts it, your friend menstruation. Believe me, guys, you need to go to the iPhone store and get the Clue app. Yes, the Clue app. It will indeed let you get a clue, because you should be tracking your wife's menstrual cycle. I'm not kidding. According to Ethel K, women seem to men to be frighteningly random creatures. But the truth is, she's not random at all. She's cyclical. And if you track her cycle, you can predict fairly precisely how she's going to behave from day to day. It really is quite remarkable. We all know days 1 to 5, that's the time of bleeding, or also known as Shark Week. And then we have the proliferative phase from days 5 to about 14, 6 to 13 really. Because on day 14 we have ovulation. And at the time of ovulation we often have a very fast spike in sexual desire. This is when you should try your rough sex experiment. And it is when she wants to be taken to Pound Town. Then about 2 weeks later we have, a little less than 2 weeks later, day 25, we have PMS hitting in and she gets bitchy and nasty and whiny. So that's monthly cycle game. And in chapter 16 he moves on on to your timeline for running your man action plan with some really good advice. Start with your weak areas first. In phase 1, when you have a lower sex rank than she does, the best advice is to shut the fuck up and work on yourself. Don't start flailing around and making demands. Case phase 2, when you have an equal sex rank, that is, when you've been lifting weights, when you're doing whatever it is you're supposed to be doing, but you will find out in stage 2, when your sex rank is equal, that you will not be denied sex as frequently, and in fact, sexual acts that you request are much more likely to be granted. Phase 3, when you raise your sex rank above hers, and by the way, this often happens when you begin to dress up, because this immediately engages the attention of other women, which of course is the entire basis of dread, which people tell me I'm the expert on. So I'm going to have a couple podcasts on that in a couple, 2-3 weeks. In phase 3, more than likely your wife will be giving you all the sex you want, and your relationship will be going great. And in fact, the point of the map is to stay in a permanent stage 3. But if you think you're in stage 3 and you're not getting all the sex you want, then Ethel K suggests a direct statement of your needs. And if that doesn't work, give up on her and find another woman. Actually, you're not supposed to find another woman quite yet, but you are supposed to give up on her and basically withdraw your attention and support until phase 6, the ultimatum, which rarely, if ever, works, and certainly is not going to restore the marriage that you once had, much to your relief, most likely. Finally, in chapter 17, he begins to get into the sex moves. And the 10-second kiss I've talked about before, highly recommended that you do this every day with your wife. Swap spit, spend 10 seconds kissing passionately. You need to negotiate it. Say something like, I'd like to kiss for 10 seconds a day. I've heard it really helps the relationship, but there's only one thing. And let her think about it for a minute. And say something along the lines of, but you have to pretend to like it. And then enforce it. Don't go for sex during the 10-second kiss or after, although it has been known to happen. Ethel K also recommends playing with women all the time. That is to say, play games, have fun, and tease her mercilessly. Don't give a shit what they think about you. Just have fun with them. The next several chapters are basically an exhortation to man up, be in charge, fix things around the house, be a beta bitch and do the laundry before he introduces the shower move, which is pretty cool. Just sneak into the bathroom when your wife's in the shower and climb in with her. And just have a stupid line ready. Don't expect sex right away in the shower, but be sure to scrub her pipes while you're there. And he has a few other ideas. Make the bed squeak by removing a screw, come on her body, and switch positions. He has a chapter on seduction, another chapter on texting, a wide variety of canned, cute statements you can make as a prelude to wife seduction, and concluding chapters on how to deal with a wife who is cheating, how to choose a wife, and the differences between marriage 2.0 and marriage 1.0. That was practiced for all of human history until feminism in the 1960s came along and gave us the marriage 2.0. So again, I think I've only given you a flavor of the book. I've gone through and told you just a few of the things that were in it. I highly recommend that you get it, read it, learn it, highlight it, and read it again. And that music means my time is up, so as always, I leave you with the words and wisdom of Mr. Robert Plant and Led Zeppelin.
But now's the time to look and look again at what you see. Is that the way it ought to stay?